Here are a few of the thousands of customers that have adopted Graviton2 instances for their production workloads. Customers like Nielsen, Ancestry.com, CBS, Datadog, and LG Electronics have migrated and have seen the benefits of Graviton2 and what it has to offer. Earlier this week, I spent some time with Don MacAskill, the CEO and chief geek of SmugMug and Flickr. SmugMug is an early adopter of Graviton-based instances and has been with us on the Graviton journey from the very beginning. Let's see what Don had to say. Well, welcome, Don, and thanks very much for joining me today. You know, we've had a long and fantastic history with SmugMug. I think you were one of our very first S3 customers. I've been working with you on EC2 over the years. And you know, we're here today to talk a little bit about Graviton and what you've been doing with Graviton at SmugMug. And so maybe we can start off about what made you interested in Graviton to start with.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It has been a fun journey getting here to ARM on AWS. I think we got interested in ARM about a decade ago because we knew that for so many of our workloads, the price performance would be way better on ARM than it was in traditional server data center processors. That's primarily because many of our workloads are just not very CPU intensive. They're often I/O bound, so they're busy shuffling, bytes in and out of network interfaces or storage or memory or things like that. And so for a long time, it's felt like we were wasting cost and power on CPUs that were essentially partially idle. And so when we found out that Graviton was coming, we got really, really excited. We've been interested in this for a long time. And as soon as it came along, we discovered that absolutely, it was an amazing fit for many of our CPU-light workloads that needed to move a lot of data around. And then things really took a turn for the better when Graviton2 came out, because all of a sudden, even our CPU-intensive workloads were operating faster on Graviton2 than they were on traditional processors. It was pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. And Don, with Graviton 1, one of the things we were really focusing on was triggering that ecosystem, making sure that the ecosystem was there to be able to support workloads running on Graviton. And so from an ecosystem point of view, can you go into more details on how easy was it to actually use Graviton?
Yeah, so we were really excited about this project, but we thought it would be kind of pretty hard. We were switching CPU architectures. And instead, we had our first large-scale workload up in about 2 weeks because the Linux ecosystem was already well prepared for the advent of ARM. Linux has been on small and embedded devices running ARM for a long time. And so most of our 2 weeks wasn't spent doing heavy lifting so much as it was spent just testing every layer of the architecture to make sure that all of the packages we found already precompiled for ARM actually worked well and were bug-free and stable and fast. And so we found out that that was indeed the case. So 2 weeks later, we went into production, and we haven't looked back since.
That's amazing, Don. And I actually remember when the launch of Graviton 2 happened, I think it was the very next day that you actually tweeted and said, hey, we've just migrated to Graviton 2. It literally was one day.
Yep, it was literally one day. That was really fun, the team was really excited about it and kind of charged off to do it without me even knowing that was happening. And so it was great to just kind of find out later in the day that Graviton 2 launched and we already have a large-scale workload up on it. And even in just the last couple of weeks, we've moved, I think, 3 or 4 major big workloads. The vast majority of compute at Flickr is now on Graviton 2. We have a couple of services that we're still in the process of moving, but that's going really, really well. The teams are just knocking them down left and right. It's awesome to see. It's
just amazing. And obviously all of that comes with a 40% improvement on price performance across your fleet. Don, as we think about other customers, I talk to a lot of customers and they think about, moving to Graviton might require a lot of work on my side. We have to recompile. With the experience you've had, what is your advice to other customers looking to maybe embark on the same journey?
Yeah, I mean, being able to save 40% without basically doing anything other than a recompile or a new Docker build or something is pretty incredible. No contract negotiations, no fiddling. It's pretty simple. So if you have workloads like ours, Linux-based workloads, especially on sort of rich modern languages like PHP, Python, Java, that sort of stuff, like it's so simple. I've never ever in my career seen saving 40% be this easy.
Well done, that's amazing. Just incredibly exciting to hear what you've been able to do at SmugMug and now Flickr as well with Graviton2. And I really just want to thank you again for joining us today and sharing the story. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.